Sounds like Theo's going to be okay. Is that correct?
He practiced yesterday, a little limited. I think he's probably 75%. Tried to be a little careful with the arm and shoulder, and then a couple of times when he didn't think about it, he made good plays. But and his tailbone's still a little sore too. But I think that's. I mean, it was a pretty good fall. I mean, it was pretty significant. So, but have him listed as going full today in practice, and I would think. I talked to him a couple minutes ago, but I would think he'd be a little better today at practice than he was yesterday, and would hopefully, without any recurrence, would be a little better tomorrow than he is today.
Tuesday, you gave Andrew a minute in there when you took Joel out, just in case. Does Andrew get a little bit more work at the one?
Yeah, and still I'd like to tell you, but I don't have a decision. We've seventh went half court stuff on. I was trying to think if it was Sunday and Monday or just Monday, and then we played. We played Tuesday. We were off Wednesday, so yesterday was the first time he's gone full court, and it depends on how he feels, how I feel, how he plays, whether or not we would give him any time tomorrow night. And I don't think we'll make that decision until maybe even during the game. It depends. I got to get to 100% go from him before it can go in. The trainers have already talked to me and give me their input, but now it's more or less it's a basketball decision right now.
So you expect seventh if grass to go through warm-ups and do all that stuff tomorrow?
Yes, yeah. If you get to go through warm-ups, it's just another day of rehab is the way I look at it. If you don't play, you get to go run in and shoot layups and all those kind of things.
Defensively, what are you seeing on the tape as the issues that you guys are having right now?
Same ones we've been having all year. I mean, got to have more of a sense of urgency to close out on a three-point shooter. Got to guard the rim a little bit better and guard the basketball a little bit better. It's not nuclear science or anything.
I mean, are those things? Can you take a defender who's not very good and make a good defender out of him, or are those instinctive things?
You can improve. You can improve one. Yes, you can't necessarily improve the lateral quickness. You can do all the drills you want to, but you're not going to improve it much. The instincts, you can improve that by showing it to him on the tape, on the court, showing his own behavior. But it's hard. It really is hard. But over years of experience now, you're talking about you can make some pretty significant leaps from a guy's 18-year-old till he's 21 or 22. It's hard to do it from January to February, though.
Did the guys defend better, say maybe a month ago, earlier in the season, as opposed to now? And if so, what is the difference?
I don't think that I've been pleased with their defense all year long. It's this thing called the ACC. That's what it is. It exposes your weaknesses, and you're guarding a different caliber athlete at every position too.
Did things ever get weird with Kevin over Cam? I feel like that might have been blown out of proportion.
It was to me. You'd have to ask him also, but it was to me. I mean, we talked one time. I think it was in the spring, because we had just been contacted by them, and we had one conversation, and he told me what he thought the university's stance was going to be. I told him that they contacted us, and Joe, I'm not even sure we ever talked about it again, because.
Like somebody you're friends with, though.
Yes.
Coach for you.
Oh yeah. I mean, I trusted my professional life with him, and still would. Yeah. Some of the things I do right now, I've copied from Kevin Stallings. But and I think there's a lot of things that we've been used to around here for 4 or 5 years that have been really not necessarily exactly what happened. But again, it's we spent time together at ACC Media Day. We sat beside each other in the van, talked a great deal. No, he's somebody that has been and always will be extremely important to me.
Probably won't happen this week or maybe even during the season, but obviously what he's going through this year, going to 10.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, I can't pull any harder than I pulled for him a couple of games ago, just dying with him. I mean, every play at the end of the game. He makes 8 threes in the first half. And, you know, I mean, I was dying, and I would have been dying for him regardless. I know what you're saying there, okay? It did happen to be a couple of games, or maybe the game before we played State. There's no question about that. But I'm truthful with you. But I would have felt the same way, really, because he's making a bunch of shots, and then all of a sudden, you know, they're coming, and they're coming, and they're coming, and you know, his guy's just not getting over the hump. And, I mean, I was almost sick at my stomach at the end of the game, you know, not like he was, because I know how we take it as a head coach. But, no, and I've felt like that 3 times this year. I've really been pulling as hard as I can pull for him.
Is this a situation with Cam where you might just kind of pull him aside and have a little talk with him because of where his emotions might be tomorrow night, or is he mature enough that you just kind of trust that instinctually, naturally, he's going to be able to handle things just fine?
I really haven't said a word to him yet. I walked through the trainer's room right there, and it lasted for 10.2 seconds. I said, just play your game. Walked on past him. And that's, I mean, I think you answered it yourself. I think he's a very mature young man. Human nature, his emotions are going to be a little different than it was for somebody else. But, you know, they got a lot of new guys that he didn't play with. And so I think that's part of it there, too.
The season that Kevin's having right now, I guess it's only happened to you guys once in 2010. What is that like for a coach, and what do you hope your team takes from an experience like that?
Well, 2010 for us wasn't, you know, 0 for 10 in the league so far, and that happened in when I was at Kansas. We went 0 for January, or 0 for January and February. It was so long. We lost 8 in a row, and that was the worst. And Kevin was with me at that time, and it was a terrible, terrible experience. But people that know basketball know. I mean, you look at his roster. I mean, they got, I think, to start 3 freshmen. Luther, a youngster that was the only experience he had coming back from last year that played a lot, got hurt after 7 or 8 games or something like that. So it's hard. I mean, you keep trying to put your finger in this hole and finger in that hole and finger in this hole. But his kids, he's one of the best offensive. And I kid him all the time. I said, I only talk about what you do offensively, but I'm serious. I still do some of the things to this day offensively that I got from Kevin Stallings. So he's going to figure out a way to help them get good shots for the best shooters. And then you have to sit over there, and then they have to perform on game day. And sometimes the other team has a bigger weapon and more bullets. And we lost 8 games in a row. And it's not something that I want to go through again. Jerry Green, one of my other assistants, came in, just walked in my house, opened the door and came in and goes over to the counter and starts taking out all the knives. Wanda said, what are you doing? Jerry said, my boy's going to slip his wrist, so I'm getting all the knives out of his house. But no, that's a tough time, and what Kevin's going through is very difficult.
Because you haven't had many transfers, I mean, do you have a sense for at all how Cam may be reacting?
No, I was trying to think. I don't think Jared was eligible when we played Cal after he had left. Never played LSU. I think we played Texas when Luke was with us, and I think Cam's only the 5th one in 30 years. And so not speaking from experience, I really don't know. You know, I just play basketball, you know. Something that happened in the past or going to happen in the future, or something happens in the stands, or something happens, you know, on campus, doesn't have anything to do with how you play in the game.
What kind of progress have Sterling and Garrison made since you started ACC play, in particular since you went to the small starting line?
Well, not as much as I wanted, and that's the reason I think my intention, and I think I did it, was at Clemson to play them more minutes than I had been, because I'm not just coaching for this week, this day, this month, this year. I'm coaching for our program, and I've got to give them some more time. And I think we did it. I don't even know how many minutes they played at Clemson.
Played 20, Garrison, I think it was 15.
17. You know, so I think that's more than they had played recently, and I'm still going to do that because I got to give them. I think they're both going to be very good players. So most players get better by having an opportunity to play a little bit. You know, Luke, you know, didn't play that much as a freshman, but was better as a sophomore, and didn't play that much, but then was a lot better, but still he had a chance to play some.
Long term, do you see them being able to play much together, or what do you think there?
They played some together the other night at Clemson, and they've done that some during the course of the year. So I would assume they'll be okay with it. But I say on the one hand, I'm coaching for the program, and it really is what I'm doing. But I don't really look at combinations to see what they're going to be. I'm trying to figure out what that referee's going to call the next minute as opposed to thinking that down the line. But they've already done that some, and I think they'll be fine with it.
I think we can safely hit the. Go ahead.
You're right.
I want to go into the memory lane section of the press conference.
We never go there.
You guys have to admit, my press conference must be the worst in the world.
The NCAA decided this year to kind of change up the selection committee process. I know that NABC recommended the change going to the quadrant system. Just curious, do you have an opinion on that, and were you in support of that?
I got no freaking idea what you're talking about.
That was the article I was telling you about today.
Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah.
Basically, what they're doing is they're putting a greater value on games away from home. They used to do RPI like 1 through 50, 50 through 100, and now you get more credit for going away and winning, and less credit.
That's
for
bad
winning.
this year, then. I don't like it. No, I really don't. The only year that I've said even something slight about the selection was the year that our RPI was, now Clint will have to help me, we were 15, and we were an 8 seed or something. That just didn't, and every other 15 seed or 16 or 17, whatever crap it was. I know wherever it was, it should have been equated to a top 4 seed, and every year for 5 years in a row before that, it had been that range. We were all of a sudden
We were 6 seed instead of a 4.
And we were matched against Kansas.
Yeah, in their backyard kind of thing. That's the only time, because I really don't. You play, it's very knowledgeable basketball. People are trying to do a great job, and for the most part, I think they do a great job. And I never get involved in it. I really don't. I never try. I'm telling you, I don't have any idea where any regional is. I have to ask every now and then to remember where the crappy Final Four is. So I really don't get involved in that stuff. So quadrants, I'm thinking you're talking about my handicap or something.
It's a crushing admission, Coach, because that means you don't follow me on Twitter.
Oh, hey, Joe, I don't have Twitter. If you hear that Roy Williams saw something on Twitter, it's because somebody handed me the phone and showed it to me, because I do not do that.
Didn't you go on Twitter a couple of years ago?
Yeah, the players always go. I said, is it tweet or twit? Because I can't ever remember which one it is. But I've never done that. Never have.
On to the historic portion. Obviously, the concept of the Carolina family was really important to Coach Smith, and all of his examples are legendary. When you were hired, did you feel like you had to do some work there to repair some of that?
I think I did. I tried to do the same thing at Kansas. I mean, my first year there, we had a reunion for everybody. We had a reunion every 5 years. When I came back, I think, and now Steve could probably check, I don't think there had been a reunion here in 15 years that I'd been gone. And so we've had a reunion. We had a 100-year celebration. We brought back 57 for their 50th year, 82 for the 25th year. We tried to bring back 93 this year, but all of them, not all of them, but 7 or 8 of them are in coaching, so they said they couldn't come to basketball games, so we brought them for a football game. But at Kansas, I tried to really, really get all the former players involved and talk about how important tradition and history and the family was, and brought back Coach Smith to 2 reunions. I sat there and watched a tremendous basketball game at the 100th year reunion, Kansas against Missouri, and asked me a question about a play after the game that I was just dumbfounded that he even noticed, because everybody was always trying to talk to him during the game. So I did that at Kansas, and when I came back here, I felt like I had to win or I'm going to get fired. And then I felt like it was extremely important to get everybody back involved as much as I possibly could. And we've tried really hard. I'm sure that we haven't succeeded in every area, but I've always thought that's really extremely important, yeah.
It's a real thing, the Carolina family.
I think it is. I really do. And it's unique because all the guys in the NBA tell me, all the NBA guys, talk about it and everything, and every guy said they're just jealous, and I love those kind of things too. But and it's the kind of thing that I think with my relationship with players, I mean, I'm at home last weekend and I get a phone call from Kirk Heinrich, and that was 15 years ago. And I'm not real good, but I haven't sent out all my Christmas cards yet. Yeah, I've sent out half of them. But the reason I do it is because if I send out a Christmas card at Christmas time, you don't remember mine. If you wait a month or so, then they remember yours, yeah. So I've gotten all the North Carolina players who've gotten their Christmas cards that ever played for me, and I'm doing the Kansas guys right now. And so it's something that I enjoy doing.
Are you remiss, speaking of Twitter, that you haven't turned the Carolina family into a hashtag for your recruiting?
Joe, this is like that question on a stupid recruiting exam. If you don't know what the hell it means in the question, how can you give them the right answer?
Flash drive.
What was it?
Flash drive.
Yeah, I got no
You
idea.
know what a hashtag is.
Is that the one that looks like a number?
Number sign.
Yeah, I've never used that in my life. Is that the one you put on the phone to get
Yeah,
it?
you might need to put it
Yeah.
down on the phone.
Yeah, I do that one. Pound, yeah. Isn't the pound the same as hashtag?
So maybe you are remiss that you haven't created.
Yeah, I probably have.
Anybody have a question about our team?
Roy, looking at your big men now, if you add them together, do you have a player?
We're getting closer. We're getting closer. Even this last week, I think Sterling has tried to amp up his intensity level. But you can't do that if you've never done it. It takes a while to develop that. I mean, Michael Jordan sat there and said, I worked as hard as everybody else. I said, oh, I thought you were going to be special. You know, and then during his 3 years here, nobody worked harder. But he didn't do that in high school. And so it does take the intensity level and the stamina to hold your level of play at a really high level, effort-wise, competitive-wise. It takes, and a lot of times it takes big guys longer because they've been successful sometimes just because of how big they are. You know, I told you, I mean, he'd tell you the same thing. I mean, Sterling, first game I saw him play with his team, and he came running over to me like a little puppy dog. Coach, what'd you think? You know, this kind of thing. And I was just laughing. I said, you need one thing. You need to learn how to do one thing. And he said, what's that? And I took my hand and rubbed it across his forehead, and I said, sweat, son. God almighty. You watched you play a whole game, you didn't sweat at all. And so his dad's told me I've taught him how to sweat a little bit more right now. But I think that's the biggest thing with them, Tail, is that they've got to learn what they can do and be pushed to do it and be have the focus and the drive themselves to try to do it every time. And big guys always, you know, get there at a different speed than most other guys, I think, too. But I think they're getting better. I really do.
Take two more and then we'll get Theo in here.
Roy, I wanted to ask you about Rayshawn Black.
Uh-huh.
Have you had somebody with that size and skill set before?
Not the same kind, because he's a 6'8", you know, who knows what he is, in that range, really a guard. I mean, he thinks pass first. I've never had anybody at that size think pass first. And, I mean, he can take it to the basket and dunk on people like small forwards, power forwards, but he's a guard. That's what he thinks like, plays like, acts like. So I've never had anybody at that size and that age with that kind of skill. I've had some pretty good 6'8", you know, Harrison Barnes was pretty good, and some other guys, but he really does think like a guard and thinks pass first, and he's got to improve his shot. It's not broken. He just got to get a lot of reps, but he's got a chance.
Do you have any penciled in for any particular position on that guard, obviously? But
1 through 4. Nick Bradford, Steve Woodbury, and Theo. They're the only guys I've ever had that have played 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the same game. And they told me that the other night, Theo told me, because against Florida State last year, we were with some small lineup, and he was guarding Ojo. So he says, Coach, I went 1 through 5. You know. Anybody else?
Coach, I got one more big man question. I was just wondering, against Clemson, you had Sterling and Garrison in before the
I had Sterling what?
Sterling and Garrison in together. I was wondering how much more do you trust them kind of now as opposed to?
Well, if you guys really seriously, you go back and look, I had that the first game, second game, third game. It's just it wasn't a lot. But we did play them together. Since we went small, we've played them together. But as I said, I decided that I was not doing what I thought I needed to do for their development, so we played them a few more minutes, and we'll continue to try to do that. But would you say 20 and 17? You know, so if one plays 20 and the other plays 17, you know, they're going to be together some on the floor there, because Luke's going to play some too. And so it's not just Sterling is, quote, the 5-man, and that's the position he plays. But Garrison can play the 5 and the 4. Luke can play the 5 and the 4. Theo can play the 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.